So, we've been kind of working with a few different things lately, talking about safety and kind of feeling grounded and present and so forth, and the qualities of safety. And then introducing kind of, you know, concept of self compassion and just kind of warming up to it, just seeing what comes up when um, when we think about compassion. We're not doing it yet. We're not kind of engaging in it, but just kind of noticing what occurs, our relationship to compassion. And one of the things that came up last time is sounds like when we start to think about compassion, that there is kind of the history with it starts to come up, the memories of maybe times it's been a struggle or times that you've felt some backdraft with it, which if you remember what backdraft is, it's, or don't, I'll just say it again, you know, when we when we're starved of something for a long time, maybe it's kindness, understanding, love, whatever it is, and then we're given it, it can feel like the opposite. You know, backdraft is like being starved of oxygen. This is a fire. Backdraft is like when we're starved of oxygen, or a fire is that when you give it oxygen, it explodes. It does the thing that, you know, you're kind of the opposite of what you're thinking, and that's kind of what happens for us. Yeah, that doesn't stay. That doesn't like. Oh, it's not always there, but it's something that as we're starting out in it, that can be quite palpable and difficult. Um, the only way to work with this is to be present with it. In other words, when we get stuck in story with how things have been for us, how they've gone for us, um, the key here is, can we start to notice these as stories? Yeah, like, can we start to label it for what it is? You know, a memory is still a story that you're telling yourself in that moment. Yes, it has happened, you know, so we don't take credibility away from it. It's credible. It's just not happening right this moment. So just like we do, you know, week one in MBSR, where we focus on the raisin and we go, let's treat this as if we've never seen this thing, as if we're aliens to this. We've just dropped in from another planet and never seen this thing before. Let's, you know, let's just call it the object and notice it and bring curiosity. This is what we call beginner's mind. Yeah, the idea of showing up to it as if for the first time. And so, I guess, you know, part of this is kind of challenging ourselves. Can we do the same thing with the practices as we're practicing compassion, or really any practice? Yeah, because anything that becomes monotonous and hey, I've done this before, all of a sudden it's not mindfulness anymore. It's something else, you know. So if you're focusing on your breath, you're like, yeah, I'm not that interested, and I'm not, you know, whatever, and it's just a thing, and a means to an end, or whatever it is, and I've done this 1,000 times. All of a sudden, you're stuck in story again. Yeah, we're not actually present. There's like an illusion there. There's an illusion that we're actually present because we're thinking about the present, but we're actually not present because we're using past and future to derive what's actually happening. What's all that's happening in that present moment? I'm having thoughts, stories. They're going back and forth, and the sensations in the body. That's what's there. Yeah. But we start to believe it. We start to buy into all the stories around it. So, so we're gonna do some work with stories today, around, you know, what the mind tells us, and see if we can keep kind of returning to the present. Yeah, because if every time we, you know, go to a meditation that has a certain have done this before and this didn't go well, and then okay, so now I'm, this is how it's going to go again. We kind of just recreate the same thing over. We don't actually get the newness of it and the ability to kind of maybe make some shifts with it. So we're gonna so even if what came up for you last week around self-compassion had nothing to do with stories, if you were, so if you mentioned, hey, nothing's really coming up, I feel okay about it, that's fine. So then maybe focusing on any stories you might be caught up with around other things. But if there are stories that you tell yourself, things that where you're saying, like, I don't really see this clearly, like compassion, like I see it through a lens where it feels there's a lot of emotion, meaning there's a lot that comes up for me, backdraft, so forth, then let's work with it a little bit. And be safe with it too. So both, meaning I don't want you to feel like you have to, this isn't an overwhelming thing. Like, the idea is not to overwhelm you. It's just to provide a little bit of challenge into the meditation as we're learning a concept. So just remember, like, if you start to go, those circles, like there's safety, challenge, overwhelm, remember? And we learn best between safety and challenge. If you start to feel overwhelmed with it, let go of the meditation and just be, and do something else. Do a mindfulness of breath meditation. Let my words just kind of go away. Just let them kind of sink underneath my words. I'm also going to challenge you, if you are finding yourself, like, even as I'm mentioning self-compassion right now, if there's a big emotional response that you're having, or thoughts are coming up or memories around it, then maybe acknowledging, hey, there's a story here. I don't know what it is. I'm not sure I buy in that there's even a story, because it feels like my reality. But just see if you can kind of acknowledge, just maybe there's something there that can be worked with. So we're going to go into a meditation around this. Part of working with stories, there's a lot of different ways. So I'm going to just kind of lead some of those, and then we'll kind of chat about it afterwards. So feel free to move into whatever mindful posture you want to today, whatever would feel supportive to you. Remembering that it's always an option to lie down or be seated, whatever it is that your body's calling for. Let's just begin by allowing yourself to settle into this moment. If taking some intentional breaths would be helpful, maybe offering that to yourself. If maybe doing a bit of movement for a little bit would be helpful, then letting that be your anchor. You're always welcome to choose the breath, sound, external object. And for this first part of the meditation, let's just practice more of that Teflon mind. Oftentimes we can get things can get sticky with the mind, and we can get kind of caught in thinking, thought, pushing things away, whatever it might be. So just see instead, if whatever is coming up, no matter what it is, just label it as wandering or thinking, feeling, emotion, urge, whatever, and then come back to your anchor. And as we do this, we're really teaching the mind how to come back to the present moment and how to let go. of whatever it may be thinking about. It doesn't matter how true or untrue or any of that these thoughts may be. As best you can, continuously coming back to breathing, or to whatever anchor you've chosen in this moment. Again, noticing where the mind is and continuously returning it back to your anchor over and over again. Using the direct sensation of the anchor to help you stay present. Really being in this moment, and this moment, and this moment, and so on. Letting the anchor really stay center stage in your awareness throughout today's practice. And as I introduce concepts, remember that the anchor is always here. Now we're just touching these other concepts, not fully throwing 100% of our weight into it, but instead 5%, 10%, maybe even less. Just kind of noticing. Inviting in these concepts just enough that you can work with it. Before shifting to adding in any more parts to this meditation, if what you're feeling is already close to overwhelm, or you're feeling really challenged today, or feeling kind of more closed emotionally, then let yourself simply stay with the anchor. Even though I say simply, this can be very complex and difficult, so letting this be the challenge today. Trust me when I say you'll gain more from listening and honoring yourself than to push yourself further than what you're ready for. Remember that you always have a choice to return to the anchor and let go of any practice that we're doing. To really show up for yourself. And if you're feeling open to working with thoughts, stories, if you're feeling open emotionally, and just kind of invite in the words or the concept of self-compassion, and just notice what happens in the realm of thinking, thoughts, memories, stories. For some, this may be a belief that comes up right away, like, I just can't do it, or I don't like it, or it's not for me, or something like that. So it might be more words. For others, it might be a specific memory or a group of memories that come up. If this is the case, if it's memories, although the memories are very true and real, a lot of times there are beliefs that get kind of almost set in stone internally. And that is what we can work with. That's where the story lies. So this is the case for you if it's in a memory. And you recall the memory, just ask yourself what was your takeaway from this memory? What is this memory? In other words, this part of you that is helping you to remember this. What does it want you to know about this? What does it believe the takeaway of this memory is? And so just ponder that a little bit. Another way to think about this is, what is the meaning I put with this memory? I want to identify thoughts, beliefs related to this memory. For example, maybe it's, this hurts too much, or it's overwhelming, or I can't do it, or it's another thing I'm bad at, or whatever it might be. See if you can label that as a story. So it's almost as if we can identify two parts. Yes, there's the hurt from experiencing this difficulty. There's also the story that most likely comes off a bit in like black or white terms, kind of all or nothing, maybe extreme terms, like I'll never, or I have to, must, can't, won't, bad, good, evil, any of that. And sometimes knowing this about the mind, that this is kind of a pattern, especially when we have stories that the mind often creates these more black and white and extreme ways of viewing it. This tends to have the effect of impacting the emotional world in a very strong way, to keep us away from something that hurt us or felt overwhelming. So it makes sense. Maybe just acknowledging to this part of you that holds these memories that it makes sense that it would want to protect you. Makes sense that it doesn't want you to hurt or feel any of those feelings that maybe you felt before. And while it can make sense, it also is likely holding a story that may not account for everything. It might be missing things, pieces. It might be extreme, or again, black and white, all or nothing. The idea here is not to argue with this or to make it different, but as best you can, acknowledging this is a story, labeling it. Ah, that's the story. And making sure to continue toggling between this and your anchor. So in this way, the anchor helps you to stay present and grounded, and maybe even provides one of those qualities or multiple qualities of safety. Well, you can also explore and maybe notice, thinking, story. Memory. You can certainly stay here with this. You can also shift back for a while to your anchor. Or if you're ready for a bit of more curiosity, exploration around this, letting yourself follow along. If you're not, just letting my words just kind of go by. And so maybe holding, as if you're holding in one hand the concept of that we're talking about of self-compassion. On the other hand, noticing what it's made up of. So first, holding the idea of common humanity. The idea that we're not alone in our suffering, that many people experience a form of whatever type of suffering you experience. That it's human to have these emotions, to feel what you feel. And notice what stories come up with this part. Is this the part of self-compassion that feels difficult? If so, maybe exploring again what comes up, what stories, if they're memories, again, acknowledging, yeah, that memory is difficult, tough, whatever the words are there, and what's the story with that memory? In other words, when I pull up this memory, or this part sends me this memory, it's usually trying to protect us from something, from more hurt. What is it trying to tell me? And if, when you think of common humanity, there's no particular response, reaction, or maybe there's even a more pleasurable response, then just make a note. Maybe it's not common humanity, but something different. And if it is common humanity that feels difficult, then staying with this. If it's not, then almost as if we're kind of a little bit of a Rolodex, we're going to go through the other parts. So bringing in the idea of mindfulness, of acknowledging suffering, acknowledging when things are hard. Without fully identifying with our internal experience, but to be able to take a step back. Just notice, is this the difficult part, the heavy part, the part that feels hard? Again, acknowledging memories here if they come up. What stories might be here. And simply labeling them without changing them. There's that story. Yeah. And if there's no particular response to this, or even a more maybe positive response, then again, just make a note. Okay, maybe it's not this area. Again, you can stay with this, or once again, holding the next area, which is self-kindness, as well as self-protection, both the yin and the yang of compassion. Again, noticing, is this the hard part, the part that feels hard? If so, exploring it like we've done with the rest. What beliefs or stories come up? As best you can, labeling them. Does the mind project into the future? Does it go to the past? As best you can, see if you can stay present with it, acknowledging, yes, the mind wants to go in these directions. And coming back to your anchor. And if none of these qualities by themselves caused a particularly strong response, maybe just making a note of that too. This is what we're talking about. So just notice the difference. Those are the components that make up self-compassion. Perhaps in noticing that, notice maybe there's certain stories that come up around the word self-compassion, something else that's bringing up that may be unrelated to those three areas. If this is the case, again, acknowledging that. It's not actually self-compassion, it's this other thing. So now, slowly letting go of this practice, sitting for a moment, stillness in the body. Making any mental notes of new learnings, of maybe things you noticed, things you want to talk about with others, in small groups, in a large group. And when you're ready, gently ending the practice by honoring it in any way that you would like.